Purgatory, Dragon Deity Favrneel is a deck that was actually not playable until just recently in English, thanks to the deck set that is themed after the deck itself. This was actually released in Japan bundled with the physical copy of Dear Days, which I managed to have, so I have it, and it comes in FFR, which we in English do not get. Favrneel is a deck from Dark States that focuses on doing two things: filling up your soul with cards from specifically Dark States whose total grades equal 13 or more. Then, after doing so, you're able to play Counterblast 2 to restand this unit after it attacks, swinging again. So it is a deck that wants to fill up its soul with certain cards, and then it is a deck that wants to restand and swing in, having double the Vanguard swing pressure. Other than that, it has some synergy with being able to retire rear guards, as it has another skill that says whenever your opponent's rear guard is retired, you can actually put a card from your hand into soul to draw a card. It also has a skill that helps its Vanguard pressure, because at the beginning of every one of your main phases, your opponent chooses one of their rear guards and retires it. And if you did not ride this turn, this unit gets 10k in an additional critical to the end of that turn. But this all comes with the caveat that you can only play one copy of Favrneel in your entire deck, so you'll never be able to actually Persona Ride by normal means. But we are able to Persona Ride now thanks to the deck set. Here's the full list. Let's jump into this deck profile. So really quickly, for the Ride deck, we're going to be playing the Grade 0 as the Omnia Kitty. The Grade 0 does not matter. While everything in your deck you want to be specifically Dark States, if we do get a Cray starter, it doesn't matter because it's a Grade 0. For the Grade 1, we're actually going to be playing the Deviating Chopper here from the deck set itself that just says when this is rolled upon, you can draw a card, choose a card, and discard it. A lot of better options for your Grade 1 targets to ride into are, for example, the Exaggerate Draco Kid, who mainly in your soul, if you have a Grade 3 or greater Vanguard, becomes Grade 3 in your soul. Or something like the Deep Sonicer all the way from set 1, who just says when this is placed on Vanguard Circle, you soul charge 1. In addition, you can also play the combination of the Richard and Steve from the Diabolus line, as they give you a little bit of draw power and also a little extra soul charge. I'm just playing this because it looks cool. One other option is also you can play the Evil Eye Beast Omnia Crow to go along with your Omnia Kitty. Omnia Crow has an ability that says Soul Blast 1. Look at the top 5 cards and search an Omnia Grugio from among them, but you won't be playing Omnia Grugio, so just shuffle. Then you actually Soul Charge 2. This allows you to get 2 cards from your deck that are presumably not the Grade 0 starter that you Soul Blasted, so that possibly gives you a higher grade count when it comes to your Grade 3 turn. In the Grade 2, we have the Squid Freaks, whose main skill just says that if you did not ride this turn, this becomes Grade +2. So it becomes a Grade 4 in your soul, which is really good for Favrneel. Also, when your Grade 3 or greater Vanguard attacks, if you did not ride, you can bind this card from your soul and give all your front row units +5 units, so that includes your Vanguard as well. And finally, of course, we have Favrneel. I have here the Japanese copy using the English copy in case people can't read Japanese like me. So for the Grade 3s, we're going to keep it pretty simple. We got 4 copies of the Purgatory Baron Herderus from the deck set, as well as 4 copies of the Demonic Sword of Riving Elgos from the deck set as well, which is unfortunately the most expensive card to get right now. We'll talk about cheap alternatives in a moment. For orders, we play ourselves the Forbidden Surrogate, again another expensive card, and then finally the Cage of Furious Star, which is thankfully not an expensive card. So Purgatory Baron Herderus here has 2 skills. First skill is at the end of the battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard. If you have Favrneel, you put this card into soul, retire one of your opponent's rear guards. So then that triggers one of Favrneel's skills to be able to put a card from your hand into soul and draw 1. So you can fill up your soul with 2 Grade 3s possibly during that play. Then it has another skill in your soul. At the beginning of your ride phase, if you have Favrneel as your Vanguard, you can bind this card from your soul, discard 1 to activate Persona Ride, but you cannot activate Persona Ride by any other ways, and you cannot ride when you use this effect. So this is the main way that we can actually achieve Persona Ride in this deck, because we don't play the Gratis Grado. Next, we have the Demonic Swordsman of Riving Elgils here, who unfortunately in the deck set is a one-of, and it's very difficult to get. I am very certain that this will get reprinted soon, so don't despair just yet, but this is very important for Favrneel because it has the following skill that says when it attacks a Vanguard, if you have Favrneel, you put another rear guard into soul, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it, and If the sum of all the grades of the dark states cards in your soul are 13 or more, you countercharge 1. So it's really important because Favrneel's skill is Counterblast 2, so this helps you actually be able to use that skill more often and not get Counterblast denied. We play the Forbidden Surrogates because of the fact that we're playing a lot of really good grade 3s that we want to get out, so playing this is insane because you get both of the grade 3s we just talked about on board instantly. And likewise, we can use the Cage of Furious Star in the same sort of sense because it is a grade 3, first of all. It's a grade 3 from Dark States. This is not from Dark States, or if it's in your soul, it doesn't count towards Favrneel's skill. This does. It also has a skill that lets you soul charge, and then you choose a grade 3 or less from your soul, call it to rear, and it gets 5k. So this lets you do a lot of things, call out a lot of the stuff that's in your soul that got soul charged. If this gets soul charged, it counts as a grade 3, but also gives power to the thing that you called out, and lets you reuse the effects of stuff that got into your soul, such as the Elegos, for example. For grade 2s, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the Hypno Grazer here. Grazer just says if you have 6 or more cards in your soul, he gets boost. If you have 12 or more, he actually becomes 10k. Typically, we just use the first skill. We don't always hit 12, but it is possible to hit 12, but we can very easily hit 6. So this gives us a booster that is not grade 1, is grade 2 that we can play in the deck. Next, we've got ourselves 3 copies of the Squid Freaks, playing 4 total in combination with the Ride deck. Squid Freaks, as we said, becomes a grade 4 if you did not ride, and you can bind it to then give your front row 5k if you did not ride that turn when your Vanguard swings. It's typically the card that you want to put into your soul by the skills that say put a card from your hand into soul, or from drop, or however you want to be. We mainly play this just to put it into soul and have that high soul number count in terms of grades. Finally, we play just 2 copies of the Amazement Magician. This is kind of the flex spot. I think you can play anything else here. This is just on attack. It soul charges 1, you may soul charge, you don't have to soul charge, it doesn't have to hit, it doesn't have to attack anything specific, but it just lets you dig into your deck to soul charge 1, as well as give you a tool that you can aggress with early, and it's a grade 2 as opposed to something like a Brainwash Dweller, which is grade 1. This is a higher grade that can possibly end up in your soul and help Favrneel's skill. We're going to be playing 1 copy of the Purple Jeweled Beast Alphemus here. This has a skill where this is placed on rear or on Guardian Circle. You take 2 cards that were originally from your Ride deck and put them back into your Ride deck face up to activate a skill depending on where you placed it. If it's on rear, you countercharge. If it's as a Guardian, it gets 15k shield. So this is either a countercharge or a 20k shield, but you can only use it once, which is why we're only playing 1 copy, because Favrneel will always be on the Vanguard Circle. There's no way to get him out of there unless we ride one of our other grade 3s or something like that. So we only play 1 copy. If we don't see it, it's fine. If we do, it's great. Both skills are very good. We have here 3 copies of the Steam Skara Zargon here. Just says, when it's boost, you choose the unit that is being boosted, and it gets the skill that if it hits a Vanguard, you put 2 cards from your drop into your soul. So this works really well with the Elgos because you can swing in, boost Elgos. It gets the skill from Zargon, and then you can use Elgos to put in Zargon into the soul while still having the skill to be able to on-hit. In general, the reason why we're playing Zargon also is just the fact that early on, you might end up getting like a lot of grade 3s and just stuff that you really don't want in your hand that you can then discard for discard fodder and then easily bring it back thanks to the Zargon being able to use your drop that way. Finally, we play 4 copies of the Exaggerate Draco Kid. As I mentioned at the top, you can play this in your Ride deck instead, and I think that's probably the superior option because this says on rear, on Guardian, or in Soul, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this card gets grade +2, so it becomes a grade 3. So between that and a Squid Freaks, on your 4th turn, since Squid Freaks doesn't activate till the next turn, you automatically have a total of 7 cards in your soul. But of course, before that, on your first grade 3 turn, that automatically gives you that extra grade 3 count in your soul. Then when this is placed on rear, if your soul is a grade 3, you soul charge 1. You may soul charge 1. And if the card you soul charge was a grade 3, you choose a card from your drop that's grade 3 and put into your soul. So this can very easily get you a lot of grade 3s into your soul and help you recur a lot of your cards. I never am able to actually get the second part of this skill to go off, so best of luck to you in case you ever play it. For PGs, we're going to be playing just 4 copies of the Repelled Malice Dragon. This says when you guard with it, you can discard a card from your hand to guard perfectly, so the attack will not hit no matter what the attack power is. However, if you have 1 or less cards in your hand, you don't have to discard a card. Typically, I say I'm playing 3 and then 1 copy of Elementaria, and I'm just too poor to get, multiple copies of the $30 card. However, this time you actually will want to play 4 copies of the normal PG because it is in Dark States. Elementaria is not in Dark States. So this will actually count towards your soul count number, grade number, for Favrneel if you play 4 of them instead of playing 3 and 1 Elementaria. For the trigger lineup, we're going to be playing 4 crits, 7 crits total. No effect crits because there's no point in them going into soul. We don't want grade zeros on our soul because 0 plus anything is not going to change. We're playing actually 4 of the draw triggers, the effect draw triggers, that when your opponent's on grade 3 and you guard with it, it gets 5k shield. We're playing 4 instead of 3 and having 8 crits because Favrneel already gets a crit and you don't really plus anyway with this deck. So really drawing and drive checking is really the only sort of plus that you get. So draw triggers help you, especially early on, get some sort of hand. We're playing 4 of the normal heals. I don't think there's really a merit for Favrneel to play any of the other types of heal triggers, but that's all specific to, you know, what kind of decks you're facing off against. And finally, we're playing the Dark Stage Overtrigger in this deck because it is best for Favrneel, as it has the skill that says if you reveal this during your drive check, then during your turn, all of your Vanguards get plus 10k in an additional critical, which means Favrneel will always be swinging in for 33 and 2 crits. 2 additional crits every turn. In terms of trying to decide which Overtrigger to play, you always have the 4 options. Right now, originally it was just the 2 options. There is enough merit to here to play the Cray Elemental version, as your rear guards don't really hit in with a lot of power, and this does say that when you drive check this, you give an additional unit 100 million power, but I would say this is probably not as worth it as being able to give Favrneel the pressure, because that's really where you're going to be winning your games, is from the Favrneel. You are more than welcome to try out the Idol Spear here, Idol Sphere, whatever it's called, as it does give you the extra crit as well. But this is for the entirety of the game. It's also really good if you check it early, whereas this is only for the 1 turn. Of course, if your opponent PGs it, this is great, and it allows you to add something for hand. So I think these are the 2 most playable ones. Whereas the red Overtrigger here is not as playable, as you don't really have any good rear guards that you want to restand with this skill. Typically early on you won't have anything as well, so you end up just drawing and calling something, which doesn't mean you can call out a grade 3 early. But in general, I don't think you want to play that. You probably want to play one of these 2. So we'll go over the options here really quickly. Here's a sort of funny one that you can try and play. I have played Favrneel a lot, specifically since it came out in Deer Days. I was messing around with it a lot. So I have a couple of like cheap budget options you can swap in until the Elegios gets reprinted. This here is an order that's grade 3, so you know it is grade 3. It adds up to your count for Favrneel, but you discard a card from your hand and countercharge 1. It's not great, but we used to play this at 1 copy just because it's the only really way that this deck can countercharge, aside from the Selfish Engraver. Selfish Engraver is a decent card. It is a grade 2 as opposed to grade 1. It does soul charge, but it does have to hit. The only problem with Selfish Engraver is that you have to hit 10 cards in your soul in order to countercharge, in which case she does also put herself into soul, which may or may not be a good thing, but that is really the only other ways you can countercharge aside from these 2 and Cat. The Gratis Grado comes with the trial deck actually, and it is a solid option to play, especially if you don't have the Elgos. There's really no point in playing the Forbidden Surrogate, so you want to play the Gratis Grado as it gives you an extra Persona ride, which is good. And then there are a couple of other grade 3s that you can try out as well. There are some older options that were played in the deck. There's the Time Jared Dragon that just says on place, put a card from your hand to soul, draw a card. So this was used a lot early on to just filter and get your grade 3s into soul. Here's an option that I used quite a bit that I actually use in both of these still because it doesn't really have any good grade 3 attackers, is the Diabolos Charger Nate from set 3 that just says if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this gets 5k, so it becomes an 18k attacker. This deck doesn't really have any crazy rearguard pressure, so this at least gives you something. Comes 28 on Persona Ride. Likewise, there is the Diabolos Striker Brian, who's pretty solid because he says you can Soul Blast out 2, and then all your front row units get 5k, so that includes your Vanguard. And this is really good because you tend to have just a lot of extra cards in your soul that are like grade 0, or you already have the 13, so you can actually use this to just give your front row a nice boost. The last thing I'll say here in terms of replacements for Elgos is maybe the Diabolos Unrivaled Bruce. This really does nothing for you other than the fact that it's a grade 4. You can try getting copies of this. I'm pretty sure it'll be a lot cheaper than the Elgos, but you get this into soul. You have a lot of cards that put cards from hand to soul, so it's not always a dead card. You can put it to drop. I don't know if it works specifically with the no, this is specifically grade 3, but you know, it's an option that you can try and play. You cannot play the Dragon Tree Grifovilia because it is actually not Dark State, so it will not count. The famed Blazing Demonic Lady here, who is actually the mat that we have here with the sneak peek mat for set 11, is an option that I think we'll possibly be able to see play. You can play a couple of more orders and use this because this says whenever this is placed, as long as it's not from a unit ability, if you played a normal warrior this turn, Soul Blast gets the top 5 and call a card. So this helps you thin out your deck as well as get you some of those pieces that you need, like the Elegos or maybe the Persona Ride guy from your deck, and then that way when you drive check, you don't drive check them. You can also go ahead and Soul Blast out 3 of the extra cards you have in your soul that don't add up to 13 soul in order to get 5k when it attacks and draw a card, so it actually pluses you a little bit. Finally, there's also the Silverthorn Rising Dragon that you can use. The only part that matters is the first skill that says when this is placed on rear, you can put a card from your hand into soul to draw a card. So it does the same thing as the Time Dare Dragon, but it's a grade 2, so it actually gives you some shield value. And then finally, you can also consider playing the Black Sky Thunder Quaking Queen Laminia. In general, since you play stuff like the Squid Freaks, and you might be playing the Exaggerate Draco Kid in your soul, you probably don't want to play this. But if you're playing a build like mine that doesn't play the Exaggerate Draco Kid, this isn't so bad as it gives you some options early on, but you probably will end up using the second skill as well. So it's a very slight maybe. I can maybe see this playable just to give you those options and that card draw early, but you don't really want to be Soul Blasting out stuff like the Squid Freaks. And that'll do it for the video here for Favrneel. I'll try and have a fight video with Favrneel sometime soon because I really want to, show this deck off. It's a pretty fun deck, and I hope you guys are able to play it regardless of the Elegos being extremely expensive. I really hope that gets reprinted sooner than later, but I know I can guarantee you 100% it will get reprinted. Do not despair. But till then, take care of yourselves and each other, play Vanguard, and have yourselves a damn good one.